Do careers in wrestling really ever end? Nope. No, they don't. That doesn't mean sometimes wrestlers aren't given the most ridiculous of things to do, though, which does significantly hurt their careers. Let's take a step back and look at these things with me. Simon Miller, let's go. Number 10, Gary the Goat Garbutt. This was so weird. It all happened in 2019 when Roman Reigns needed a partner to take on Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. Despite being the guy at the time, he went and found the local janitor who was indeed called Gary Garbutt. I mean, that just screams of Vince McMahon. Of course, this man from nowhere was also a high-flying machine. This is because behind the mop was indeed Cedric Alexander. He didn't win, although when he was defeated had a smile like, well, I almost got him. And look, if that had been a one-off, fine. Sure, it's wrestling, have fun. Number 9, Vince McMahon doesn't get the revival. Which is mad, really. The revival in WWE became FTR and AEW, and look what they've done since. They're an all-time tag team. This was true in NXT as well and was accurate on the main roster. As we just said, Vince McMahon don't get it. It's likely due to the fact that the then boss wasn't into tag team wrestling ever, with many a wrestler saying he sort of looked down on it from an old school mentality, or at least a business one. Why would I pay for 4 guys when I can pay for 2? It meant even though the now Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood were super good to go, they were even more lost on him. I mean, they were a classic tag team trying to revive the scene, hence the name. It meant soon we had them doing ridiculous stuff like falling over or having hot stuff put on their crotches. You do have to give them credit in the sense the revival always did everything to 100% of their ability. There's a reason they wanted to leave. This isn't what they wanted to give back. Much like before, at first WWE refused this until they were able to get out, and I think this is a thank goodness too. They're just so good. They deserve the best platform to show it on. Number 8, Hideo Itami. This one just didn't work out. It's a shame today because, man, it would have been a different story. It is important to remember that this was Kenta we are talking about, somebody who genuinely changed the wrestling game. A lot of your favorites right now were inspired by this guy. I mean, who came up with the GTS? The real issue was Kenta had given so much to the industry before he arrived at NXT that he was pretty beaten up. And some of his matches were brutal. When he did make the jump to WWE, he then suffered a horrendous shoulder injury that kept him out for a year. Can't pretend that hasn't played a part in all of this. It has. The two eventually parted ways, and while Kenta is still having a good run in New Japan, it's not the same guy as before, and sadly that's how the world works. When you've set your own high expectations, you become under even more scrutiny. You cannot take anything away from the man, however, because he is a trailblazer and a trendsetter. Basically responsible for why everybody does kicks today rather than punches. That was Kenta. Number 7, Nathan Jones is out of WrestleMania. So this is a true story, but trust me, Nathan Jones wanted nothing to do with wrestling. He quickly worked out it wasn't for him. I'm not surprised either because he got Vince McMahon, or when the boss saw how big he was, they called him up to the main roster long before he was ready. That's never fair. It's basically a death sentence, you only get one shot. To try and get him up to speed, he was paired with The Undertaker, which was indeed smart. Here was a big man who also had mad longevity. If you can get any of that magic to rub off on you, you're probably golden. Sadly, the opposite happened and the planned tag team match at WrestleMania was scrapped with Nathan doing a run-in instead. And then he fell over. Poor boy. The bad experience coupled with the travel saw Jones leave wrestling entirely and get into movies. If you keep an eye out, you'll actually see him a lot too. He has done quite well for himself. Number 6, the Bart Gunn KO. I'm still mad about this. I've got to get over it. It's just so stupid. It does go back for the Brawl for All, which means we have to discuss that again. Because yes, in 1998, the WWF thought doing a shoot fighting tournament was a good idea, even though it told you that the rest of the show was predetermined. So dumb. Even worse, the hope was Dr. Death Steve Williams would win the thing, and if that's the case, just work it. Then he definitely will be victorious, but no. We took the risk, and Steve got knocked out, good grief. Bart Gunn was the guy who smacked him, and when all was said and done, he'd also finished off Bob Holly, the Godfather, and Bradshaw. I mean, that's quite a good run. Instead of just going with it, management basically punished Gunn too, because he vanished from TV, until he returned at WrestleMania to face Butterbean, who, yes, was an actual boxer. Guess what happened? Bart got rocked. It only took about 10 seconds, and the knockout is horrible, and that was that for Gunn. He was never given another chance, and soon was released from the company. So let's never do this again. Talk about being dealt a bad hand. Number 5, Buff Bagwell. So this one was a big whoops. When WCW was bought by the WWE, everybody was on tenterhooks because we didn't know what was next. That went for the wrestlers too. Vince McMahon's big original plan was to revive Nitro, mostly to prove he was the best. Hence why on the July 2001 episode of Raw, we got a World Championship Wrestling main event. It was Buff Bagwell versus Booker T. Now, admittedly, this wasn't very good, but the other issue is that the WWF fans crapped all over it, but of course they did. For years, they had been told that WCW sucked. That was a real kicker. The match really was actually kind of passable, but this reaction killed it. Instantly, the powers that be were worried, and it got even worse when Kurt Angle and Steve Austin ran in to stop this. It just confirmed everybody's bias. The following week, Buff went about causing a right scene backstage, even no-showing an event when apparently his mother called in to tell WWE. Then he got into a big old fight with Shane Helms. It's hard to know exactly what happened here, but most agree it was Bagwell's fault. He was let go. It does seem like he had somewhat of an attitude, and as there wasn't many other options, we didn't really see much of him after this. Who does kind of feel like a wasted opportunity. Number 4, Hawk falls off the TitanTron. This was offensive. I'm not sure there's another way to put it. But Hawk from the Legion of Doom was going through some very real personal issues at the time. So what did the WWF do? They made it into a story. I'm not sure that's a good idea. It got so bad in November 1998 as the man in question was teaming with new LOD partner Droz that, yep, due to his addictions and not being balanced, he climbed up the TitanTron. Why did nobody stop it? We even treated this as some sort of must-see TV as Raw then cut to commercial as manager Paul Ellering begged him not to do it. Then when we did come back, Droz tried to save him, which somehow resulted in Hawk falling to the floor. This was horrible, especially because, again, the real person was dealing with addiction issues, and now we were acting like Droz pushed him. Who was this for? It really did mean the story for a while was, did Droz try to kill somebody? And poor Hawk. He never recovered from this, mostly because everyone should have been trying to support the guy instead. He never really found his momentum again, and even worse, passed away 5 years later. We really shouldn't have done this. Number 3, Marc Mero's big contract. So there is a lot of chatter about this. Mick Foley has summed it up many a time. Basically, Vince McMahon was a big fan of Marc Mero, and to get him away from WCW, offered him a guaranteed contract. These are commonplace today, but in the 90s they didn't exist in the WWF. When Mick and the likes of Steve Austin found about this, they felt slighted. They'd also been brought in at a similar time, but there had been no mention of it. You can't get mad at Marc for accepting, but man, this did not work out. While he was presented as the wild man, the Attitude Era was slowly creeping in, meaning gimmicks like this weren't clicking anymore. And actually what was clicking was things like his wife. Now that sounds way too crass, and I don't mean it to, but it's just the truth. Sable at Mero's side became a fan favorite instantly, which was the same for The Office. As the audience got younger and younger, it was basically an attempt to turn it into wrestling's Pamela Anderson. It worked. You could even say too well, because it meant Marc became second fiddle in this pairing, and before long, Sable was a megastar. There was no going back. It was a shame for Mero because he still had something to offer, but this was such a shift, his career basically came to an abrupt halt. Because he is the best dude, he spent his post-wrestling life trying to help others, and that really is what's important. All things considered, Marc sounds like a truly awesome guy. Number 2, Muhammad Hassan's last ride. If you do want more context about this, go and watch Muhammad Hassan's interview he did with Chris Van Vliet in 2024. You get the whole story. The short version is WWE just started pushing the boundaries of poor taste because, man, this was not good. It didn't start that way, as Hassan was meant to be a somewhat nuanced character that reflected people's own biases back on them. It did feel a bit too heavy for WWE, and yep, there was a reason for that. Simply put, as soon as they wanted to increase the booze, we just made Muhammad stereotypical foreign heel, and it was not good. Then there were those horrible incidences in 2005, which felt like we were trying to do a full-on terrorist angle. It was terrible. What made it even worse is that WWE aired these the same week of the 7/7 London bombings, and that was that. Everybody of note told WWE this had to stop. They were right. It brought us to the Great American Bash, where Hassan was already scheduled to face The Undertaker. We basically used this pay-per-view as his funeral. Muhammad was chokeslammed through the stage at the end of it, and it was sold like that was it. He was gone, over. He never returned to TV, and while Mark Kapani, who played the character, deserved a round 2 playing somebody who wasn't this controversial, it never ever happened. Instead, he took all the heat, was released from the company, and unsurprisingly, decided he wanted nothing to do with the industry anymore. I wonder why. Number 1, the Public Enemy get tabled. The Public Enemy were ECW's most over team. While a lot of people deserve credit, they were certainly 2 guys who helped establish the new wave of wrestling. Rock and Johnny Grunge were also big fans of using weapons, and so did so as often as possible. Eventually led them to the WWF, and let's just say maybe they weren't ready for the backstage environment that awaited them. It all began in March 1999, where it was going to be the Public Enemy versus the APA. Rock and Grunge told Bradshaw and Farouk they didn't want to take a table bump because that was their gimmick. They'd gotten over doing the opposite. Given that they had only just come through the door, the acolytes couldn't believe these words had come out of their mouth, so they went out onto Sunday Night Heat and killed these guys, almost literally. You can see it today, and within a few seconds you'll notice this is a real beating. Some of the chair shots. My gosh. Whatever was said, this isn't cool. It is the same with the Still Steps too, and by the end, it looked like we'd witnessed an actual war. As soon as word got back to management, Public Enemy were totally screwed, and yeah, they were let go. They did sort of carry on back in their old stomping grounds, but I don't know. Whatever they had beforehand never returned. These days, most people just don't want to talk about it. Know of any other times where wrestlers' careers really hit a brick wall? Make sure you let us know in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then make sure you click the video on the screen to get even more lists so you can increase your wrestling trivia. Thank you very much for joining me, my friends. I will talk to you again the next time you hit the play button.